you started posting about crypto on your Twitter feed. I was like, oh my God, he's going to end his career.
GM, welcome to GM Good Music, a music NFT podcast where we explore the future of music and the artists paving the way. I'm your host, Josh Savage, and today I am honoured to introduce a fellow UK music NFT pioneer. She's a fiery lassie hailing all the way from Scotland. Emma Miller, how are you doing?
Hello there. Hi, the new.
I'm doing couldn't even understand that.
Yeah, it was in foreign.
Was it? Okay, yeah. Good. Well, amazing to have you here. Thanks for your time. Let's take it back to the very beginning. What happened after you were born? Where did it all begin?
When I was a wee bairn. Where did it begin? Genuinely, are we going all the way back to little lassie? Okay. Well, I was born in Aberdeen. No, was I? Yeah, I was. I was born in Aberdeen. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because Elgin, I'm from Elgin, and I don't think we had a hospital of high enough quality to receive an Emma Miller just yet. So we were taken to Aberdeen Hospital. I've never gone
Aberdeen,
to the early years
Emma,
before.
Just in case people don't know about it.
It's in the northeast of Scotland. Mm-hmm. It's kind of known for being it's called the Granite City because it's got a lot of granite buildings, and it's known for being an oil rich city. So it's got its own little climate of crazy sky high property prices and just a lot of oil in Aberdeen. But I'm from Elgin, and that is even further north than Aberdeen, on a lovely bit of just off the coastline. And in recent years, I've come to really appreciate where I'm from, because it's a beautiful bit of the world, Maryshire. Hope you enjoyed the bin lorry going past there too.
I can hear that. So good. Cool. And so how did you even, when did you stick around in Aberdeen or this other place I can't pronounce?
Elgin.
For a while? Yes.
I have no association to Aberdeen other than you asking me where I was born.
I see.
Elgin, I stuck around there, Josh. I lived and breathed the Elgin life right through secondary school. I went to Elgin Academy, and then I went on the very, very big journey from Elgin all the way to Glasgow, which is like a good 4, sometimes 5-hour train ride. And that was genuinely like the big city for me, which Glasgow is like a big city in Scotland. But coming from Elgin, I remember hearing like sirens at nighttime consistently for the first time, and phoning my mum being like, there's so much noise and crime, and just I wasn't used to those noises, which is funny to think on now. And I studied French and comparative literature for 5 years at Glasgow, and graduated with a 2-1 and distinction in spoken French, which I've since completely lost. I can barely string a sentence together in French.
That's not true. You bring out the French every now and then to me.
Maybe in English, and they go, hello, good sir. I don't know if I've actually spoken any French. And I'm trying to get you to the music point, which was in Glasgow. I continued to do like little open mics. I always was writing songs just as a hobby. And it was when I graduated that I thought, I'm going to do one post-uni gap year, do some music, try and develop this hobby so that it's just something I carry with me forever, because I just loved it so much. And so I went off and did musical things, and now we're friends. There you go. We did a decade's worth in a second.
That's so cool. I didn't realize you did a post-uni gap year as well.
Yeah. And I did a ski season in that gap year. I was a chalet girl for like 3 months in Les Trois Vallées.
Oh my God. We have to go skiing together.
Yeah, I've been really lucky. Like it's something my dad grew up doing. And so every single year we would be out skiing, and I desperately wanted to do a ski season at some point. So that happened. It's intense. Like, you're working 6 days a week. It's a, work hard, play hard type of role. But had the best time, and really great.
I don't know if you know this, when I was at the Uni of York, I was the social secretary for the ski society.
Oh my God. This makes so much sense. If people don't know the bloody reputation of ski clubs at universities, it's disgraceful, quite frankly.
It's more of a drinking society than a ski society. It's a drinking society.
So this is a real insight into your laddishness, Josh, actually.
Hey, I got it out the way. Just got it out of the system. Good. Now I'm a lot tamer as a savage. Awesome. Well, let's delve back to the music. Love that we have that connection, and with the skiing. And so how did you even get into music in the first place, and how is Glasgow as a city for music? I've heard great things.
How I got into music, I mean, my mum has always played piano. She's actually like a far better pianist than me because she did all the grades, can read music. And so there was always a piano in the house. So I started lessons as a child doing classical piano, and somewhat enjoyed them probably to begin with, but really ended up just hating piano lessons. I'd do them every week, and I did it for years and years up until age 14, when finally, this was after maybe starting at 8 years old, my mum was like, you can choose now. If you like, I can see how miserable it makes you. You can choose if you want to do this or not. So I took a break and decided I would continue if I could get a different teacher. And I had started songwriting at that point, maybe around like 11 years old.
Oh, wow.
Well, I went to, like, heading into secondary school, I just had a bit of a moment where the music teacher, shout out Mrs. Barbieri, did improvisation with us, literally improvising Three Blind Mice. And I transposing it and doing different things. I was like, wait, you can like reinvent music, or you can, I just had no concept of being like the originator of a song or music. I just thought you learned other people's stuff. So weirdly, just that notion clicked into place for me, and I started writing super epic, long-winded piano ballads that probably just bored my parents to. We're looking at like pushing 6 minutes, like we could probably get to.
Okay, for that's all right.
Like classic singer-songwriter, and did school talent shows with my own songs and a couple of bands. Won a few talent shows, won like a local Murray's Got Talent with my own music as well.
How old were you when you played your first show to strangers?
It would have been a school talent show, and I was probably 14. Yeah. I wasn't. I don't know if I won that one. I won a couple of them, Josh. I can't remember which ones.
Well,
but no, it was a good. I'm winning now. Woohoo! Yeah, it was a good time. But that's all I thought that there was with music. I thought like you could have your, like fun time at home. But I wasn't doing any kind of pop music. I certainly didn't identify with the labels or the like. Just being a musician in the public eye, I was like, well, I'm nothing like those people, so that's not the option. And because of my history with piano lessons, I hated just the hardcore classical side of like theory. I just didn't think I could do it. It's like, well, I can't go the conservatoire or super classical route. Therefore, that's my moment, and I'll do this as my hobby. And there wasn't a scene in Elgin. So there was a music scene for maybe indie bands. And that's the same as Glasgow, really. Like I found in Glasgow, it's more of an indie band scene. So if you've got a band, it's seemed to cater for that a bit more. Having said that, I never really pushed myself at all to, I think I almost cringed at the idea of doing the singer-songwriter style music that I was doing in that setting. It's like I already decided who would want to hear, if you've come to see like a grungy band, who would ever want to hear like my type of music or folky type of music? So I didn't even look into it that far.
That's interesting.
So yeah, but it was heading to London post ski season, where the music side like properly fell into place. Really?
Why?
Because I did a songwriting degree in London. So part of my gap year time out that I was taking, I'd done a bit of traveling, interrailing, and I met this DJ who for some reason, I'd never done this before. I was playing like my voice notes to, because I think that's how, or I maybe had GarageBand or something. And they were like, you should go on a songwriting course. Like you should develop this. They were being very encouraging. So I looked in the UK at different courses. There was some in Scotland, but the one that really stood out to me because it was specifically a songwriting course and one of the only ones that existed was at ICMP in London. And I thought I'm going to extend this year and do like a diploma in songwriting. And that definitely will mean I get this to a nice level to just work on through my life. And I had just the best time. Like I did not want to move to London. Again, thought it was a big bad city. My first apartment had like rat infestation. I was next to the train tracks, so every single night you'd be like, the next train approaching Kilburn is just like, oh god. But
you should record it. You should record it and incorporate it in a song.
I should have.
Voice moment.
I definitely should have. I had really great audio of that woman doing the train reading. But yeah, I hadn't had a peer group before of musicians. So I think that was the game changer, like coming to London and having this huge peer group of mega talented people that were all so enthusiastic, so motivated, and to my great relief, not at all the cliche of like competitiveness that I thought there'd be in London. Like my fear was it's just going to be cutthroat, and it was the complete opposite. And it was a really wholesome few years of just making music and collaborating with people. And in my first year there, I got a manager, I got a music lawyer that funded my first set of songs.
Oh, wow.
And it just felt like very easy breezy. I was like, oh, this is what happens if you go to London and start doing music. And then just
how did that come about?
The reality set in. It was through the college. So I really hit it off with a fantastic tutor there called Julian Marshall. And he had been in bands like through, I don't want to say which decade, but maybe through the 60s or so. And he was good friends with a music lawyer called James Wiley, who happened to be or have been in the past Annie Lennox's manager at one point. And he was Scottish, so we had.
I sat on Annie Lennox's lap as a 6-month-old baby, apparently.
No way.
Yeah, apparently.
I thought you were going to say her knee, and I was like, surely not.
No, my mum was working at a fashion show, or was visiting a fashion show. She saw cute baby me before it all went downhill, and just like grabbed me apparently. So I wonder if she still remembers me.
That's a way bigger claim to fame. I don't have anything remotely as an honor to sit on Annie Lennox's lap. That's very cool. That's a great story, though. If you ever meet her, you have to be like, "Excuse
me, remember me,
Miss Lennox?" Do you remember me? What an opener!
Yeah, after all these years.
Yeah.
Would you say going to study music helped you?
Yes.
And did you go with the mindset of this is my full-time thing for the rest of my life? Or what's your mindset at the time?
Initially, my mindset was I just knew that whenever I went into the world of work in the like traditional sense, which I thought would be in the whiskey industry up in Scotland, I just knew
Really?
like that's because I'd worked every summer as a whiskey distillery guide in between uni, so I kind of saw my path like heading into the whiskey industry.
Oh wow.
But I like everybody, once you get into your career, it's very unusual for you to take breaks or to experiment with other things. You tend to just want to continue with the path that you're on. So I just saw that year as a big opportunity to like grow creatively and try and like pack in as many experiences before entering into a more traditional workplace. And it wasn't until maybe quite early on, like a few months into the songwriting, what became a songwriting degree, that I was like, oh, this is fantastic. Like if I could be doing this full time, then that's when I think I started having a gear shift and concentrating on being like an independent artist.
Awesome. And would you say the degree helped you more with what you learned or the networking?
Both. Like as I said, I had never had this peer group. So it's a funny thing to say, like, oh, I've got a degree in songwriting, because it doesn't really mean a lot. Like I can't emphasize it enough. You do not need a degree in songwriting to be a musician or to do songwriting. Like that's just like peculiar. But it does, music courses and music colleges do provide you that scene. They provide you that network and that mindset almost of being plunged into a space where there's so many fellow creative people and individuals and unique perspectives that definitely provided me with that. But it really did improve my songwriting. Like for the first year, we were writing 3 songs a week. We were writing to different briefs, different genres. And I would never have done that myself. You can have all the motivation and self-starterism in the world. And I don't think I would have actually like followed through if I'd known even to do those things. So having a structure and tutors to give you feedback, and what ended up being invaluable feedback from your peers. Like what would be the worst is if like in the beginning you're not comfortable with each other, or you just want to be nice, and you get the most growth from getting like the trusted people that understand what you're trying to do, give you that push and that nudge. And then you even can go past that and then take it or leave it, and understand that your art might not be for everyone, but that in between like growth period where you get genuine direct feedback was just completely life-changing.
And constructive and honest feedback as well, which is so hard to find, especially like never trust family or friends for honest feedback. Like it's the worst. Like, so wow, that must have been really powerful. I guess I wouldn't say I had the same experience studying music at university, but I studied a classical degree. And I always knew I was more into the kind of popular music scene. However, the best part of uni for me was finding myself. It was great for my confidence and just trying different things and figuring out what I liked and what I didn't like. Start my first band, Taming the Savage, and doing my first shows and whatnot. So actually, if you have something a bit more specific to your tastes, it's worthwhile.
Yeah, I definitely find it very worthwhile.
So how long were you in London for?
I was in London for 5 whole years.
Wow.
Mainly in Northwest London. So I started out in Kilburn, where that really grew on me. I've got a lot of love for Kilburn, but there was many a day where there'd be like police tape around friends' flat, or like stabbings or murders, or a SWAT team once I walked past in Kilburn. And I moved up to Willesden Green, which is the next tube stop along. It's all on the Jubilee line. And there was a little bit more greenery in Willesden Green and a couple more cafes. And then the real upgrade came when we moved to the top of Finchley Road, because then we weren't really in West Hampstead, but we would say that we lived in West Hampstead, which is a very nice, like, little villagey feeling bit of London. And my friend used to work at a restaurant in Hampstead, which is like very
Gorgeous.
palatial and green and like cobblestoned. So really my 5 years were in that pocket of London, and it didn't really feel like, maybe I think a lot of other people's experience of London is like being a young professional, so riding the tube every day into Central. And I think I enjoyed my time there so much because I had access to like green spaces, I could ride my bike. But yeah, still a very fast pace of life in London. Like, there's no escaping it, even
It's
in
probably
Northwest.
the fastest this side of the world, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Probably only New York and LA beat it, really.
Yeah.
In the entire world. I mean, I've never been to Tokyo or China, but I imagine they're probably similar. And so do you miss London now or not?
No.
Yeah.
I don't miss London. I did struggle for a while. Like, probably I overstayed by a year, maybe more, in London. I just went through a phase of being like, I didn't see myself there long term. Like, I couldn't imagine settling down in London. And once that thought comes in, you're like, well, why am I putting down even more roots here? Like, I really had a strong calling to come back to Scotland, and almost a pull to find the antithesis of what I just experienced with like the fast-paced city life, working a part-time job, trying to make music happen. So moving back, being closer to family, I moved all the way back up to the northeast to Elgin, which is just beaches and forests, and really was the food for the soul that I needed coming at the end of 2019. So no, I don't miss London, but I do miss the friendship group that I have there, who I'm still like very much in touch with. And it's a great feeling going back into London, though. Like, when I'm just there for a few days, because you know the city so well, you just hop straight back into as if you've never left again. And that's quite a privilege, to just feel like, oh, I know somewhere good to go for a drink tonight, or like these little hidden spots that you find with your musician friends. Loved living there overall.
Yeah, me too. Even though I only did 18 months, and that was in a warehouse with 14 people in Tottenham, where people also getting stabbed on our street on a regular basis. I think if you're committed to having a life in music, especially as an artist, one of the best things you can do is spending a year or two in London minimum, because it just really sets the tone. Yeah. It shows you how good people are. It's such a big learning curve, and really gives you a good head start, especially if you move back to your own place. Like, for example, I'm so glad I did London before I moved to Berlin, because Berlin's lifestyle is a lot slower. Even though people say it's a big city, there's too much going on here, which is hilarious, because it's nothing compared to London. It's amazing because London taught me that discipline and all the skills I needed to grow and get to where I am today as an artist. And it's just so easy to kind of go back to the slower pace, unless you realize what truly matters to you. And I guess, you need that kind of, that drive in the beginning. And so I'm glad it was fruitful for you. I think what's funny as well, is like, when I lived in London, I don't know about you, but I would never see my friends because there was so much going on. Traveling to see them took a bloody hour or so on the underground, and you'd have to most likely do it in rush hour, be stuck under some sweaty man's armpit and with your face pressed against the the train window. It was just wasn't worth it, especially when you're doing, I don't know about you, but I was doing 2 to 3 part-time jobs as well as focusing on my career as well.
Right.
But when I visit, I see my friends more now as a Berliner than a Londoner, even though I used to live in the same city as them, because people make more of an effort, and I guess you put things off a lot more. Is that the same for you or not?
No.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Do you know what? I think one of the reasons I maybe didn't make the most of the opportunities that I had in London was because I was having the best time with my friends. Like I was spending too much time with my friends because I was really lucky that I always lived with friends. So
Awesome.
it was never kind of a situation where I was living with strangers or living with like acquaintances. So my home life became highly social, where as soon as you're in the door, you're like, at the first, when we moved to Willesden Green, we didn't have Wi-Fi for minimum 3 months, like a really long time. And it was through the winter time. So every single night we would all sit down in the living room and watch at least like 3 episodes of Buffy together. And that was my introduction to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So we were like this highly bonded, like motley crew of musicians, and some of us more motivated than others. So it was like flat parties, house parties, a lot of socialization actually. And Josh, I think that might have been there was a bit too much of that. So I mean, I wouldn't give it back, but being in London, sometimes when you are more isolated or when you are like cut off, you're so much more in the zone because you have no choice. That's your purpose, is to grind and to work. But when you've constantly got like the option to hang out and it's with musicians, and so you feel like, well, it's my people. You're reminding me that was maybe the curse of having a fantastic peer group, was too much downtime.
Well, you know what? I think if I still lived in London, I would not have explored Web3 because I would have been too busy.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like that solely came from moving home and having the opportunity to do that. But I'm loving like being out of my 20s and having the zone to just, I loved that time, but there's something so focused now about like switching gears and having, like, I live alone, I've got my dog and I see my friends, and you can organize your time so much better. I still like highly prioritize like family and friends, but I wouldn't be doing Web3. I wouldn't be as ambitious with like ideas for my music and ideas for touring, ideas for like blockchain releases. So yeah, there's a lot to be said for removing yourself, and giving yourself space to explore.
So how did you get started with releasing your first songs online, and what's your strategy with that?
So I released my first song in 2017, and it was completely self-released. And probably because I was at a music college, I had an idea of the campaign like model that you could do through tastemaker blogs. And at that point, Spotify still had forms that you could submit to, like, to get on to pitch to get onto playlists. And if you had the right connection, you could be sent, forms for the Swedish Spotify or forms for like the German Spotify. So there's little bits of that. But I think I was just on the cusp where there'd been so many of us like emailing these forms to one another. I'm sure it just defeated the purpose of having a more like curated private system. That I think they were phasing that out. But I got onto a really fantastic music blog called The 405, which has since closed its doors a few years ago. But that was just really recognized by the industry. and I knew nothing about it, but I remember mentioning.
One.
Yeah, I remember mentioning it to one of the a member of staff at ICMP, and they did a double take, and you got onto the 405, and I was like, oh, I didn't think it was. I just submitted it through their email. So I had this nice little Kickstarter with that first song burning out. Got a little bit of BBC Six radio play, and just small things. Yeah.
Wow, huge. Well done.
Thank you. At the time, again, I was such a novice. I was like, yeah, this must be just la 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 la, what happens? And such a massive learning curve in the years that followed that. Even just the second release that I didn't get the same bite as the first. I think, again, it's to do with the blog culture. They love a debut release. And there's a little bit of that. And yeah, it's a long road. You have to dedicate on being a full-time PR agent for yourself. And I think a lot of artists don't realize that you have to have a 6-week campaign leading up to it, socials, the whole shebang. And I'm not saying I'm an expert at any of it, but I do know kind of what it takes. And I ended up doing freelance PR for other artists because it turns out I'm far better at plugging other people's music when it's not for me, because you kind of want to do even more. But yeah, that's how I went about it. I've just always done independent releases until the debut EP that I did called Set Me Down, and I worked with Liberty London, and they were really fantastic partners in creating more of a professional campaign. And I saw an instant difference in just the opportunities I was getting. Got a few festivals that year.
Oh wow!
Got more started building more of a relationship with BBC Radio Scotland, just with a small. There's a small show on there, or not a small show, a fantastic show called the Roddy Hart Show, that've been so supportive. So little tiny things like that, really relationship based, I've found over the years, forming genuine connections with people. And I think that's probably why we've both ended up understanding the blockchain culture better, is because it's genuine and it's authentic and it's relationship based. And once you get past that and knowing I don't think the industry is as cynical as some might first believe of. I don't know, that there's a superficial element, but so much for an independent artist can come from authentic and genuine interactions, and especially with listeners and supporters, once you can tap into getting a channel into one another, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So how would you recommend getting started with building relationships with people in the industry?
Interesting. Well,
not Web3 yet, more traditional.
Industry. Again, I mean, I am not who to come to for connections, because I definitely don't have a list.
But for example, with your label, and I guess the studying helped because you were immersed in that.
That's it.
People.
That's really what's coming to mind, is finding that peer group. And you really do never know who you're talking to. So I think just being kind, respectful, and yeah, just if you resonate with someone, keep tabs on one another. This isn't so much what I have done, but the things that I've learned recently is don't have expectations. Just do not have expectations. I think it's really easy, especially in those early days. I remember you'll have had the same, you get so many emails in, and those first few times as an independent artist, oh my God, my life is about to change. I've been emailed by this person or that person, and you never get a reply, or they never follow through. And that's such an easy, quick lesson of just have no expectations, keep your head down, do your own thing, and keep working on yourself and your music and your art. And you do want to be in the position where people come to you and are approaching you, and you're you're not reliant on the other side, which I realize is like a hard position to be in. But yeah, I think that's how to make connections, is to not need someone for something. Like, try and have a genuine interaction with them, see how you can show up for them and what they're doing. But naturally, like, I've developed just casual relationships with people through years in London, and so being in the right location, and through music college, like being around friends that end up going into like management companies for music or indie labels. So you start picking up little tips and tricks. I did a very brief stint at an indie record label as an intern, so even that was a great experience of like a look behind the doors as to how they run a campaign or their artists. And so you pick up little things and people and stuff like that. So that's my my hazy overview.
Yeah, well, it's really hard to pin it down, really, isn't it? I guess the key thing is really, it's always best for people to come to you rather than the other way around. So how do you make that happen? Of course, going to real life events is a big one. However, when that wasn't an option in the pandemic, what do you do? And I guess that's where I guess, even though it's taboo, especially for musicians, like the typical thing is like, I'm a musician, I should just be doing music 100% of the time. And, well, let me ask you, how much time do you actually spend on the music, as considering that's your career? What percentage would you say?
Potentially the lowest percentage
on
music. Like, if you divide my pie up, the music comes down to probably the smallest part of the pie.
Yeah. What?
Like 10%?
10, 20%, I'd say the same, yeah.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking, but the fact is, like, well, me personally, I want to do music so bad, I'll do whatever it takes, even if I have to do the donkey work on the stuff I don't enjoy as much, to just give me a small, tiny piece of the pie of the stuff I love doing. Otherwise, what's the alternative, right? And
having said that, I've found a lot of joy in the other stuff. Like, if you're a creative person and you stop resisting that, oh, this means like I'm not doing music, or this social media is crap, or whatever. Like, once you get over that and just realize, okay, well, it's part of it, there's a great freedom in finding your like niche, finding your strength there. So that can like be another creative outlet. And the percentage that you spend on music, it does change. Like, right now I'm doing music every day because I have like a gig next week, so I'm trying to like rehearse a set. So the balance is always shifting. But I'm sure we both like have a negligible amount of time on the music.
Sadly, but I guess it's just, you just make it your own, right? You just make it creative in your own way. And something I see you doing as well is just regular posts on Instagram and TikTok. And yes, it's like kind of soul destroying.
You're great
at times,
at that.
but
like, I'm
trying to be.
Whoever's listening to this, don't use my model as for Instagram or TikTok. Follow Josh, because you're a killer at socials. I'd
say follow Sammy Arriaga, the bloody king of social media.
We can both agree on that.
He's taught both of us quite a lot. But I think just make it enjoyable, and I just think of, it's like you're building leverage and it's free, right? It's either that or you're paying thousands on PR that probably won't work anyway. Like, none of my PR campaigns really have given me that much. It's more the organic growth from my own touring or social media building bit by bit that kind of gets there. And if you just think about it, it's free. Yes, it costs so much time, but it's organic, it's real. You're having real life conversations with people on the other side. And your phone is basically a window into what you're doing. And that's where people come to you rather than you chasing other people, you know. And honestly, credit to you, Em, because I see you working hard on that too. And and the stuff you put out is absolutely stunning. And just got to keep grinding, really, don't we? So, but yeah, enough of social media before we go absolutely bonkers. Actually, we met on social media, right?
This is true. Well, kind of. Yeah, we met through that online music blog called Indie Top 39 that I, for like a summer, was a writer on. And the guy, Dov, who...
Shout out to Dov.
Yeah, shout out to Dov, who does so much for like indie artists. He organized an online like music festival, almost workshop type thing, in which I did a presentation on like how to do a DIY campaign, something that we've like touched on here. And I think you were doing panels and discussions. And from that, I must have followed you on Twitter. Saw you beginning, at that point I was dabbling in crypto in 2020, was it? Maybe, probably. And
that's right.
You started posting about crypto on your Twitter feed. I was like, oh my God, he's going to end his career. Yeah. That's how we met.
And it's funny.
And we started DMing each other like info on crypto.
Yeah. No, I remember good times. You're like my first friend in this almost fake reality of Web3. And it's ironic, isn't it? Because like your first thought is going to end my career. And to be fair, that thought came to my mind as well. But by this point, we're in the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah, dark times.
Careers fucked anyway. And it saved our careers, which is really...
I mean, it gave me a career.
Powerful.
Like, you were already a touring artist and had a lot of strings to your bow. But I would say I was, whether there was the pandemic or not, I was already significantly stepping back from doing music. Although I did launch like my first EP during the pandemic in 2020, I fully saw that as like I'd gone into hobby mode. Like I took a lot of time over it and I put a huge amount of work into it, but I was already exploring like new things outside of music. So like
crypto.
No. But yeah, it like the life that I've been given through Web3 has given me a full-time career in music for the first time and opened so many doors in the last like 18 months. Yeah.
Yeah, it's massive. So what made you curious about crypto in the first place? And then let's get into how you got into the space as an artist.
I have no clue what got me into crypto. Genuinely don't know. It's such like, what was I even thinking? Like getting into Bitcoin or Ethereum. But it might have been YouTube videos. It might have just been like articles, and it was kind of in the zeitgeist in 2020. Like that's what they say, right? If your mom starts talking about crypto, you know it's time to run.
Get out.
Get out now. So I was probably part of that mob that entered into the space and had the white knuckle roller coaster ride. And maybe like a lot of people, you're at home, you're like, how can I just win the lottery and live at home and do music? And so that was my burn into crypto. And it was you again posting about music NFTs and like DMing me to come into a few Twitter spaces that you and Violetta were running. And I don't know.
You put up a fight.
I was going to say,
no, I can't do it.
We should go back into the DMs, and I wonder if that history is saved to see when you sent me the first space, or how many times I ignored it before I was like, okay, I'll come in and hang out. And that was it.
But completely fair enough, because it is pretty terrifying first time you jump in a space, let alone talk on one.
Yeah.
And well, I mean, tell me your experience, your first
it's terrifying.
space as a speaker.
It's so.
And how was the response? How was everyone? How did people react to you? I don't think I was there.
Yeah, I don't think you're there. I don't even know if I performed on the first space, but I'd been like maybe every day I'd been in to Violetta Spaces listening. And so I kind of started to understand like who was who, like who were like regular faces on the stage whilst you're like an audience member. And I did the whole thing of like listening to the conversation and the topic. And like, okay, this is going to be what I say. Like you want to come up and contribute something. I still think that's a good way of coming into a space. Like genuinely listen to what's going on and come up with a contribution. And my heart was racing. I'd requested the mic to come up, and then you're like doing the like social audio etiquette, which is you can't just like come and start speaking. So you're waiting to see like when it's your turn, if you can like, I don't know. There's all of these little micro bits of audio body language that you have to read. Audio body language. So I was really nervous that first time, and it's kind of sweet to think of now because now I don't give a shit when I'm up in spaces, and especially because everybody's friends in the music scene. But even going into new spaces, like when I had to,
you've got some fire in you now.
I did so much of it, like minting out artifacts. Yeah, but you'd go into rooms with like sometimes 500 more people or listeners, and you'd request that and be like, I can speak on this stage, it's fine. So yeah, that's a recommendation I would say for people interested. Come up and speak.
And would you say it's more worthwhile than playing, for example, open mics or shows?
Not shows. Like genuinely open mics, playing live, they're so valuable. I feel like I did my open mic stint in London for a few years. It's not what I get the most joy out of doing. But certainly playing live, like being booked to do shows, that is unbeatable. But for being in your living room and accessing people, nowhere else allows you to just hop on your phone and immediately deliver your music, often to a new audience, whose level of engagement is like, I would say astronomical compared to what you get on socials on like just a general non-audio platform, because they've heard you speak, they've heard you in real time come up onto stage and have like a genuine interaction with someone, maybe give a little bit of your story and then immediately play live. So they've had these like 3 major connections with you in real time, like happening in front of their eyes. So there's a huge, I would say, like not always, but often a huge follow through of people that then like actually follow you, for one, like on the likes of Twitter, who then like and engage with your posts and who might even DM you, like asking how they could support or what you're doing next. And those are all very small things, but when it's a chance to build relationships with an actual person now and no longer like an unknown entity, it's a big game changer.
Well, even though it's small, with small beginnings come big endings, and after you started trickling out some music NFTs that sold out every time, you then launched Artifacts, which is the biggest music NFT collection from an independent UK artist.
Oh, you said it. I was like, is he going to say that?
Of course. I was so proud of you. And I still remember you're so nervous about it, just like everything else, and then you absolutely smash it when it comes down to it. So tell us about Artifacts.
Well, I'd had the privilege of seeing the likes of you, the likes of Ray, the likes of Violetta, and Sammy all go before me, doing these more like significant, larger drops, where you're ultimately doing like a large collection of music NFTs. And that's the project. Like it's more of like a world building experience than just putting out songs. Like if you're putting out an album or you're creating like this world around it. So I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And just from watching other people go before me, I had the formula in mind of how you can do it, like the strategy of being on Twitter, hosting spaces, building out utilities. So I chose to have 5 songs, a 1,000 piece collection. I worked on the artwork with my mum and with a graphic designer, and we built out this world of like planets and moths and lyrics. And yeah, around these 5 songs. Just because I wanted a little creature. I just thought I wanted like a little creature as part of the artwork. And moths, a butterfly felt too pretty, and a moth felt like it represented the music more. Of like, it's kind of artifacts. The songs attached are like from a slightly like darker, melancholy time, but ultimately it's like hopeful as well. So you've got that with a moth. It's still like a metamorphosis, transformation, moving towards the light. Like there's all of these bits of symbolism that come with moths for me. So that's why I chose them. Yeah. But
Beautiful.
that was the beginning of Artifacts.
I think it's one of the most beautiful music NFT collections out there, for sure.
Aww.
Especially the music. And you know, I'm a big fan of Downstairs. I don't stop going on about it.
And making all your
puns,
terrible dad
left,
jokes.
right, and center.
Yeah.
Exactly. And but I'm a huge fan, and I'm so proud of you, Em. I think you did the right thing as well. Like when you first started, you didn't jump straight in. How long was it that you dropped Artifacts after you first stepped on a Twitter space, for example, in the chat room?
Maybe 10 months after.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I launched the collection in April 2023.
2023, yeah.
Whoa. And I must have joined Twitter Spaces in February 2022.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Is that right?
Wow, so over a year.
Yeah. And then I launched my first like 10-piece NFT.
I mean, not only is your music fantastic and really gorgeous and people really resonate with it, but when you came into the space, you were so giving and you're so supportive, especially in my spaces. Like you were an absolute champ, co-hosting my spaces, helping me mint out love letters, also in the bear market, but with Violetta and Sammy, and people just absolutely adored you, and people of course minted for the music, but I would also say people support you because they like you as an artist too. Would you agree?
I think that's fair in the sense that because I've like been familiar with how I feel about other people in the space, because again of the social audio side, you really get to know people and personalities. And you've got such affection and warmth for like so many, like the majority of the friends and the people you make in the space. So I'm sure never being able to get rid of me and having my presence there every day, it does start like you do become a little bit of a feature within the music scene that we were in. But it was such a special time, actually, despite almost because of the sleep deprivation and the like the 24-hour long spaces for like some of your minting. It was such a bonding experience, like not just with the artist doing it, but with the people that would show up every day and maybe not even come up on stage, but they're like, you just see them like dotting around, supporting and from like space to space. So it was like a collective experience that this community went through together. And so, yeah, I'm sure that is very bonding, and people like outside of the music, you do want probably to understand a bit about the person as like the artist as a full person, probably motivates you to support that little bit extra. Like you're going to follow through when you know the person behind the music a bit better.
Yeah. Tell us what it felt like when you minted out artifacts.
It was a bit surreal, actually, because I was in Nashville inside of a motel, and I think I'd spent 3 days without leaving this motel in Nashville, just on Twitter Space, because I was at that like finish line. And I had also tried to preserve my sanity a little bit. So I hadn't gone completely wild with like what I thought was excessive time on Spaces, but I did, bless her heart.
Quickly, what was excessive time on Spaces? How much were you putting
I mean,
in?
more like the time I was like staying up until like 3 a.m. I wasn't really doing a lot of that, which is maybe what I've done.
For those who don't know, why were you doing that?
Because so many of our collectors and so much of the culture and the market is based in the States at the moment. Or that's what we were finding. And the music scene that we'd built, we'd had so much love and support from a ton of collectors based out in the States or in that time zone that those are your friends. And you want to start hanging out with them more and more, and you start following people into space. So this even happened to me recently. I thought I've got my UK time zone back, and like last week or the week before, I had the best time just hanging out, like just for one evening on Twitter to like 2 a.m, which is modest in DGen terms. But yeah, it's very like, I'm glad I put in that work. I'm glad I did that stint, and now I have the support from that community, but I can also have my own time zone. But yeah, minting out artifacts, to be honest, I had help from so many people, but in the final week, Tony Parisi really stepped up for me, and we hosted a week of completely mad Twitter Spaces. We did a series for like just over a week on ChatGPT curated play that we would perform every single night about a SCOBY.
Oh, yes.
Which is this weird like bacteria that makes kombucha, and I'm like a massive kombucha fan, and I used to have an army of SCOBYs in my flat, like this sinister cupboard that if you opened it, you'd think I was harvesting brains or something. And so we just
thanks for the warning before I come stay over.
Yeah. No, they're all gone. I never got them to live past a summer. But yeah, we'd done so many spaces like about artifacts, and it becomes tedious. So I think if you ever get to that point where you're like, this is not exciting anymore, just let go, change it up, do something fun. And that's what we did. And I would run competitions every night. And then on the final day, like Violetta really came through, and I probably had the choice of, I thought I'll sell this out tomorrow. Like I knew that it would be within the next couple of days, and she was like, nope, we're selling out today. Everybody, let's go. And we just built up the room. And yeah, you have to believe in what you're doing, and you have to have that last bit of energy in the tank. But it was definitely a huge weight off my mind of like, you just want to, it just feels like an accomplishment to sell out. And I'm not saying it's the be all and end all to sell out a collection. Like there's so much you learn with way before selling out. It's got nothing to do with the actual sellout, but it's a nice pat on the back once, if and when it happens.
You certainly rubbed it in my face after you beat my record for having the largest music NFT collection from a UK artist.
Yeah, that's why I was surprised you introduced artifacts like that, because technically, I mean, Josh absolutely killed it with Love Letters, and you set the tone, and you've done so well in just nurturing that collection. So he is the kingpin in the UK music NFT scene, but I'm very grateful that you allowed me to have my marketing title.
I knew it was Bants, and I knew the best thing I could do was kind of just take the punches.
Yeah.
take the punches. Definitely had to throw my ego out the window, and yeah, and I mean, I'm a big fan of the collection, especially downstairs. And did I mention? And yeah, and it was just a matter of time. So it's good. So why? I mean, you said earlier that gave you your music career. Why did music NFTs give you your music NFT? A career in music? Full stop.
I think outside of Web3, I had such like an anxiety-filled time of trying to do music, of not really seeing, like, if you did X, Y, and Z, like if you ticked whatever boxes you're meant to tick as an independent artist, I still didn't see how it would definitely add up to like financially being able to do music, having the audience size where you want your music to reach, having the opportunities. It still felt like even if you did everything, there's not a guarantee. And now I actually feel a bit differently than that, because again, just shouting out Sammy Arriaga, you can play the socials game, like, and it's not for everybody, and that's fine. If it's not for you, music doesn't have to be what pays your bills. Like, you can do it and have the most incredible life, like doing it in whatever way you see fit. But I think if you do want music to be how you spend your time, and you're willing to like do the marketing, like understand like the business side, use both sides of your brain, like not just only music, like you have to start embracing everything, then I think I was quite maybe resistant to understanding that in like what I'm calling the Web2 traditional scene. So I think of it differently now, but that's how I felt. Whereas coming into Web3 and the blockchain culture and having this connection, that was a game changer. Like the confidence that I gained in the last year from hearing people react to me performing live, to people like not just saying a nice comment, but actually like following through and buying an NFT or reposting stuff. That's like the amount of actions that people took. And again, that might sound superficial, but it's just not stuff I'd experienced before. So I could just start seeing it happening around me. I was like, oh, okay, well, if this continues, or if this is genuinely how people feel, and I'm like gaining so much joy out of all of this, then it just felt like I could visualize it all. It just felt like a working model. And I think that's the difference I could see in the space when I did X, Y, and Z in the Web3 model. The payoff was there. Like the audience was there, the engagement was there, the financial stability was there, and that's what's allowed me
to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said you've been working on utilities with artifacts. I mean, if people love your music, which if they're not already and haven't heard their music, then head to Emma's Spotify, or you got a website too, right? Emma Miller.
EmmaMiller.xyz.
XYZ. So check it out. So people just heard your music for the first time. They love it. Why is it good to invest in artifacts and hold one?
Yeah, I mean, if they find my music and they love it, then any level of engagement with whatever they're comfortable with is fantastic. But if they want to take that next step, then my current like most valuable way of doing that, I would say, is owning an artifact. It kind of brings you into the fold with how I'm building out that project in a larger sense. So of course, you, for the first time, will own an asset, which is going to be a piece of artwork and the song. So that's already something that's really different. And And from there, I did decide to introduce utility to the collection. And from that, I mean like little experiences, little bits of extras. So in the months that have followed since selling out the collection in May, I have done a free airdrop to a bunch of community members who ended up collecting all 5 songs. So I gave them a free album version of the NFT with brand new artwork. And I already activated one of the gold versions of this album. People can book a free Zoom call with me for the rest of this year if they want me to like serenade a loved one, or so these little perks.
I can get you to do that
If you hold the gold album of artifacts, then yes, Josh. I don't know if you do. You'd have to double check. I'll look in your wallet.
Collect all 5 songs. Yeah.
Okay.
I've been taking a step back from Twitter Spaces and all this recently, but I'll
do some digging.
I'm looking forward to step
and
back,
I'll let you know.
Yeah. All right, so I can get you to serenade a loved one.
Yeah, if you've got that trait, you can.
Okay. It's my dad's birthday in a few months.
Okay, I'll get the happy birthday on the go. But yeah, there's so many little things, like just ways that I can connect with the community. I host a regular live stream. I've got vinyl and merch attached to the collection. So if you hold certain traits, you get discounts. Or you get priority. So it's a way of being like at the front row seat of what I'm doing, what I'm building, where I'm performing. It's just your invitation to be part of the whole movement and world that I've started to build out and map out in Web3 and the blockchain. And I've got lots of different plans with different blockchains, different collaborations, different projects. So yeah, it's just the beginning, really.
Awesome. So with your next steps, how are you incorporating live music, Spotify, Web3? What's your vision moving forward from here?
Yeah, so again, my mindset on things has changed and is ever evolving. So I don't want to say like I will do this or I won't do that. But one thing that has changed is the look towards like traditional platforms like Spotify, other streaming platforms, and realizing I really do want to grow as an artist across the board. And if I can have Web3 be my like peak top fan base, like the ways that people can just elevate the experience that I offer and how they experience my music, that's going to be my focus. And at the same time, if I can grow my profile across the board, I'm going to be doing that too. So I've got lots of plans to release my music across traditional streaming platforms and into the blockchain. I've got my sights on a debut album, the Mega Project.
Exclusive, everybody.
Yeah, and it will be coming out on the blockchain. Yeah, I'm incredibly excited about that. Something I've wanted to do for a really long time. And I want to be really thoughtful about how I navigate the Web3 experience if and when it comes out on like a traditional streaming. But I'm really open-minded to how to navigate the space and just embracing different opportunities as they come. But yeah, that's next on the agenda. Well, there's a ton of different things on the agenda, but the next big thing is a debut album.
Wow, massive. I can't wait to hear it.
Me too.
And I noticed Artifacts isn't on Spotify. Are you planning to put it on streaming, or are you going to keep it exclusive on the blockchain?
Yeah.
Thinking there.
Again, so I tried to be really transparent with the mint, mentioning like down the line, I want to have a Web2 release. And I thought probably it's something I want to do. There's no rush. I found like taking stuff onto streaming, and I want it to be another thing where the community feel like they have a lot of ownership over it. So if we do it, it'll be a joint venture where I can like almost gamify the experience coming onto streaming, involve everybody that's an owner of the collection.
Awesome.
And I think the huge distinction again is whether the music is on streaming or not. the NFT, like this digital collectible, that is the only asset that will ever exist from that piece of music. It's not, I don't think that gets diluted by coming onto streaming. I think if anything, that increases the value because you're the only person that owns the asset version. And as I said, the way that I've designed the collection is it is an invitation into my world. So you're kind of building on top of the NFT itself. So hopefully people will like navigate that journey with me and figure out like an exciting way to bring it onto streaming if that happens. Yeah.
Big year ahead then.
Here's hoping, yeah. A lot of bloody work ahead.
Oh yeah, that never stops. It's kind of funny because like no matter what successes you have, what's the saying? It's like at the top of every mountain is the beginning of the next one or something like that. I probably butchered that, but it's true. It's like no matter what, you just have to keep working and keep working hard, and that's where you just have to love it, right? So
yeah, but definite shout out to you, Josh. Like you're such an inspiration, and I've loved watching you do your thing in the space, and even really love seeing you like take a step back from the specific like Web3 side. You're always nurturing your collection and your holders. Like that's never changed. But it's great to see you just set the tone for like what can be done. Like you've killed it in the space, and now you're working on your German lessons. You're like doing new music. You're doing this whole craft so that whenever you do the next Web3 thing, or you can always return fresh, like skilled up and ready to go. So I've loved watching you navigate the space, and it's definitely inspiring for me.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole point of a bear market, right? It's like you just got to build. So 4 hours of bloody German every morning is not easy, and I certainly would not be learning anything if I was doing Twitter Spaces till 5, 6, 7 a.m.
Yeah,
like I was
those
doing.
days, please, are gone.
When I was minting out love letters. Oh my god. And yeah, I mean, I get to build this music NFT podcast. I hope that this is going to help educate really talented creators out there in the space and why they should get into the blockchain now before it gets oversaturated, which I think is what's going to happen. And yeah, and just kind of grow the family, you know, and especially with the live side of things as well. It's like Twitter Spaces is awesome to kind of get a foot in the door and meet incredible people around the world. But it's even better when you see them in real life, right, at a show and get to share all these moments we've had online in real life. You get to see their actual face behind the PFP that we're so familiar with. And yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. And the best part is like, we're literally following our dreams and we're able to make that happen because of this amazing technology, which gives more power to creators and also fans as well. Like,
absolutely.
What successes have you had with artifacts or any other music NFTs that you've had that a fan has bought?
I mean, the novelty just straight out of the gates, and again, not financial advice. It's never a guarantee that you make profit, but blew my mind to see the secondary market begin for artifacts. And that's like, it's very modest, but it's just the fact that people have been trading and initially like doubling, tripling, quadrupling what they had spent on the project. Like that's not part of our world ever. Like a musician's life doesn't involve, unless you're the, I don't know, deceased or some kind of major artist who's like got their thing selling at Christie's. It's like, well, that doesn't come into what we're doing. But that was really interesting, seeing how people valued different items and were embracing like the gamification side, where I'd said, oh, this trait is going to get you this experience, so people start buying into it. So that was like a big novelty and continues to be really cool to witness.
It's massive, especially considering people have been seeing, well, seeing music is almost worthless over the last few years because of how available it is, but it's not sustainable for artists like ourselves.
Yeah, and maybe as well, like the NFT scene does have a bad name because there is so much just rubbish out there. And if people are looking for a fun thing to do with their collector's money, or it probably feels like a more profound and satisfying way to invest or to have a piece of art in your pocket, knowing that it's sustaining an artist, it's giving you something. It's just been this mutual exchange that happens. But yeah, it's been, and even just seeing people wear the artwork, like put it as their profile pictures, small stuff like that. Like that's been a wake up call of like, oh, I didn't know that person was even that not that engaged, but it shows that extra level of and I love the Thursday live streams, like hanging out with a lot of the collectors and seeing the people that show up consistently, and just what they must be getting out of it if they keep returning to have a little live stream concert with me. That's really special.
And that's in your Discord. Where can people find your Discord?
Link in bio, wherever the bio may be. On my website as well, emmamiller.xyz. And I recently changed most of my socials to Hey Emma Miller. So it's at Hey Emma Miller, Hey, and then Emma Miller with an ER. And there'll be a Discord.
Why's the O gone? Oh, Emma Miller.
Because
Hey Emma Miller.
Yeah, because I was like, my TikTok is Hey Emma Miller. And I was like, actually, sometimes at a gig is, when it's such a simple letter, so it used to be OH Emma Miller. I'm always like, is that weird? Are people going to be like, how do you spell O? So guys, we're Hey Emma Miller across the socials. And that's where you can find all the things. I guess that makes sense.
It's like when you first meet you, it's like, oh, Emma Miller, the star. Now it's like that. Now you've made so many friends with all your fans.
I'm just like one of you. Yeah.
Scene. It's like, oh, hey, Emma Miller, best pal, Emma Miller.
I've upgraded to being part of the people.
Awesome. Well, let's finish with top tip for aspiring artists today.
I mean, I've been giving them away left, right, and center, quite frankly. No, I'm joking. Top tip for aspiring artists. I've been thinking about this recently. I think you have to understand why you're doing your art, and if it's for yourself and you just live and breathe it, then just don't lose that. Keep doing that, because I think a lot of the poisonous, toxic, anxiety-driven side of music and the music industry, and what a lot of artists go through, is when you feel like it has to be this thing, or it has to be that thing, or success equals this. I definitely agree. When you want it to pay your bills and be everything, it's hard to separate those two worlds. But if you're an artist, you're an artist, whether you've made money from it or not. So it's maybe not a great piece of advice of how to break through into the industry, but if it keeps you sane, I would say just try and hold on to that distinction of keeping your art for yourself and have integrity with it and trust yourself, and not get too caught up in have I made it or not. I don't know. That's just something I've thought.
That makes sense. Yeah. Run the marathon, don't.
Yeah, and I think ultimately it keeps you in good stead for keeping focused and maybe resulting in so-called success, however you want to frame it.
Yeah. Especially songwriting, I think, as well, is how you come up with your best songs. It's funny for me as well. I find I write my best songs when I'm not trying to write a song. For example, when I'm living my life or whatever, it's like filling the well. It's like if you keep writing tons of songs, you just gradually become empty, and then you just got to live your life. So you got something to say. If you got nothing to say, your songs aren't really going to stand out because they're not unique to you. And we are each our own identities with our own journeys and stories. And you can't write a good song unless you've lived a bit of your life, you know. So, thank you so much for taking the time, sharing your wisdom and your story. And is there anything else you'd like to share? Where can people find your music one more time? Where can people support you and be a part of your journey?
You can find my music on emmamiller.xyz. You can find artifacts there and listen to the songs. You can find me on streaming. There's nothing else I'd like to say. Yeah, I've had a very enjoyable afternoon talking with Mr. Josh Savage. He's a right fine stand-up bloke and a bestie in the space and absolute legend.
She never says that behind closed doors.
Nah, slies.
Right, cheers then.